Hi, I'm Kristen with MHM Living, and I'm joined today by our operations manager, Jen Crimmins.
Hi, Kristen. I'm super excited to be here.
And we are here discussing the top 3 pain points that we consistently hear from designers when we're meeting with them. Do you want to give us a little sneak preview?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to just go ahead and say before we dive into the details of those top 3 pain points, like there is a theme here, predictability, which is absolutely our favorite point of distinction because it offsets all of these pain points.
All right, let's get started. Technical design being one aspect. How do you describe technical design to someone who may not be familiar or who thinks, well, isn't that just getting measurements right on the paper?
Well, it's absolutely getting measurements right on the paper, but I like to give the example of, so we have some very talented design partners. And one way that you do is when you look at these design concepts that are new. You haven't seen them before. You're building them for the first time, right? So after the design magic or artistry is done, we need to go in and look at it with our technical expertise from that technical eye to go, okay, well, how do you actually build this, right? And this is something that a design partner absolutely should be looking for in their build partner, to be asking them and thinking through, because otherwise you're risking your vision not, coming to fruition. So,
I remember speaking with a designer who brought that exact problem of, they've designed a counter to have this perfect trim where the stone goes over the edge, and then another contractor who doesn't understand that nuance of design comes in and just figures, I'll just do standard and trim it out and it with some wood and it'll be perfectly fine. But that elevated design then is totally lost. That's really separating a project from being exceptional from just really nice.
and that's really unfortunate. And I bet that happens like a lot more than most people would like to admit. But this is a great segue back to what we were talking about, how our number one point of distinction, predictability, really offsets this from the beginning. Because if you have predictability and you've taken into consideration your process, then you are making sure to carve out time for pre-construction and that technical review of this so that it doesn't happen. What happens, though, most of the time is that people don't have this predictability and alignment of dates. And so their time gets cut short if they're even if this is even in their process, right? So they're rushing and they might not have the actual time to look at, those unique or new design concepts that really require that due diligence.
We have a well-defined process, right? Of discovery, design, pre-construction, and then production, right? And in that design phase, those are the nuances that we're looking at and validating how well we can execute on it, both from a construction standpoint and a cost standpoint, because something may be beautiful and we don't want the client to sign up for something because it's beautiful and then find out it's way beyond what they want to spend on that piece of art in their construction, if you will. So this is really about feasibility and cost engineering exercise as well before we get to the construction phase. So then there's no surprises, like you're saying, with the predictability, right?
I love the way that we're talking through this because we're actually working backwards in it, and this is awesome. So yes, before we get to that point where we're looking at it with a critical eye, I mentioned earlier this cost alignment checkpoint. It's definitely a pain point if a designer goes through the whole design and creates this beautiful masterpiece, and then the GC or the builder is like, oh, it's $2 million, and the client had no idea it was coming to that. So what we like to do is earlier in the process, right after the design presentation has been shown, is pause, right, and kind of say, okay, design partner, you're on hold. Don't do any work that might have to be value engineered or changed. Let's get a feel for where we're at with the budget and make sure that we're in alignment with the client. And then once we are, okay, wonderful. Now you start to work on the construction documents that we need to be able to get us into pre-construction phase.
I know another pain point that we've heard from designers is they come up with some brilliant concepts. They're dreaming, they're artists, and getting it to, is this really going to work? Sometimes doesn't happen until the construction phase, and the contractor is sitting there saying, well, we can't do this. And then it feels a little bit like this whole idea is just crumbling. What do we do to help mediate that?
So I think like one of the principles of our company and our general philosophy, right, is efficiency and brain friendliness. So there is a point before you start working on the design presentation for us to come in as early as possible after design kickoff, when you've walked the space with the client and you really start to understand how they live in that environment and how they want to live in that environment, where we need to nip in the bud some ideas that maybe you think are feasible that are not, but also like share some ideas with you that we know to be feasible that maybe are limiting you. So we like to call that concept validation. And that can also sometimes require a structural engineer coming in and just making sure that we can remove this wall or that. But basically, it's like we are aligned on the concept layout before you start thinking like about, the design presentation.
Mm-hmm. I've talked with a number of designers too, and a lot of them will try to be the PM on the project, or they feel while they do have a general contractor, they're still ultimately on the hook for the project, which is great from an integrity standpoint, but also maybe not the most efficient use of their time and the value of their time, right? Managing subs on the job when they could be creating beautiful spaces is probably not what they want to be doing either. What would you say is a value add in working with a design build firm like MHM Living?
We completely respect when a partner has embedded in their process, typically because of the status quo and how it has been done, to come in on these checkpoints to make sure that everything is, being built to their vision. But this is one of the reasons why we want to be there in the very beginning too. We want to understand that why from the beginning, because we don't want you to have to do our job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just like I don't think you really want to do someone else's job. This is what we do best. And I do believe it is a big pain point that we relieve with our design partners, that they can trust us, right, completely to take it and run with their vision and build it perfectly.
Mm-hmm. We use a tool, a communication tool, right, that we include all of our partners in. Any subs we have, the client, the design partners, they're up to date on what's happening on the project day by day, just like everybody else. They know, critical milestones that are going to be happening, that maybe they want to go and do a validation that things are coming together as they envisioned in their head, or now that they see it in real life, do things need to be rebalanced a little bit? So
Absolutely.
they're in communication just as much as the client all along the way, but they don't have to be there with their hard hat on supervising.
Right. I love the phrase collective awareness, real-time collective awareness. And our construction management software allows for that, just by inviting our design partners to follow along the schedule that is updated day to day, right? And read the daily reports that's updated every day by 5 p.m. Okay.
So there's a lot of companies, contractors, design build firms that have a process, right? Some of them are probably more fully baked than others. Some may look pretty on print, but then don't actually happen. And we definitely have a process that drives our efficiency and our predictability, and we really stick to it. We're not going to let construction happen until all design decisions are made. But above that, from an operational perspective, I see the reason we have process is to deliver a unique experience. And that's one distinguishing attribution to us, I think, is that we're looking at not just the experience for the client, but the experience for our design partner, for any of our subs, and for our internal team too. We're not looking to create chaos so everybody along the way is stressed out. We put a high value on what is everybody's experience, because there's a lot of companies out there who can deliver, a beautiful kitchen, a beautiful remodel. But if the journey getting there is super painful for everybody and stressed out, and at the end of it, you're left saying, I don't ever want to do that again, then for us, it wasn't worth it. And unfortunately, designers they get to do it again because that's their business, right? And so in working with a partner so closely, they need to be with somebody that they feel is managing their experience as well, not just going to leave them stressed out the end of it, only to start up another project and get on that same cycle.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we're speaking about here is like ultimately this is probably a year-long journey, right? So it is definitely a relationship. And a relationship is only successful when, all parties are taken into consideration. So it makes sense that it's not just one person's experience. It's all stakeholder experience.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Jen.
You're welcome.
And we're happy to help with any of your projects that you may have coming or just even visioning and discovery. MHM Living would be happy to help you.